Where are my fellow Magnus enjoyers at? Where you at, friends? Put your hands up in the chat. Wave it like you just don't care. We're Magnus enjoyers in our heart, and we don't wear underwear. I'm not a rhymer. I'm not a rapper. We're talking about Magnus today. I'll put myself up here. Now his name is Agnes. This is a character that I feel like a lot of people kind of skip on. He was kind of a little bit of a meme when the game started, but I actually don't think he was, like, personally. And I think he's continued just to be a really solid character. So we're kind of gonna go over a build for him, his use case, when you want to use him, when you don't want to use him. So first and foremost, this character is not a damage dealer. He is basically an incredibly offensive support, is the way I would describe it. If like Tyre is a very defensive support with more emphasis on a wider variety of support and healing, stuff like that, Magnus is like, he does the support thing, but he also is about dealing damage and helping your team deal more damage, and to an extent helping them stay alive. So let's kind of go over first his trait. My guy is actually going to be 3 stars tomorrow. I am currently fart sharpen him is exactly the word I want to say. I was wrong. He's 8 away, so he's actually 3 days. Damn it. But I am taking him to 3 stars. So at 1 star, it's a little weak, but it gets quite a bit better, quite a bit faster. So my favorite part about him right here: decreases the attack and defense of all enemies within 3 tiles by 8%. This is just passive. You don't need to do the fragrant shit like you do with Hosna, Homa. I think it's Hosna. I get some of the names mixed up. Like, don't get me wrong, I call August and Akambe, I get them mixed up constantly. But he also adds 20% of his physical defense to his physical attack, his P defense to his P attack. This is noticeable, but I mean, when we're talking damage dealers, I mean, this guy is straight up a chump at dealing actual damage. Now, he could chunk people. He's not going to be executing stuff. That's just not what he does. But he can help support finishing off characters. He could lower someone into the injured state. That way your damage dealers can maybe actually clean them up. So he's not like completely terrible at dealing damage, but this is not the primary reason you're bringing him. You're not like, I'm going to carry this map with my Magnus damage, my Magnum Dong. We're going to be bringing him primarily for this aura here. And it gets quite a bit better. So straight at 2 stars, I don't think it's that much better. You get a 20% P defense to P attack to a 30%. I mean, that is noticeable. It's good. It's basically like a free equipment because the 5-star axe gives you 10%. So it's kind of like you just get that for free. Again, it's not that big. But once you get the 3 stars, I think that's when you start wanting to... I think 3 stars is a good place to take them. You decrease the attack and defense of all enemies within 3 tiles by 12%. And you get the 30% physical as well, which you already have at 2 stars. That 4% more is huge. Every percent is just a big deal. Now, 4%. I don't know how to count, do I? No, it is 4%. Duh. It is 4%. I just don't know how to count. So 4 stars, not that good. You get another 10% there. That's fine. It's just like, it makes him do a little bit more damage, but his damage is not like that good. I mean, it's something. I don't care. But 5 star, I would love to get him to 5 star one day. But I'm going to have to get really unlucky in some pulls to get him to 5 star. I'm going to have to pull him against my will in order to get it, because I'm not going to shard farm him past level 3 star. Just not going to happen. But 5 star is actually pretty great. That's when you get the 15% attack and defense down with 4 tiles. So you could be even further away. You get an even bigger effect, and you still get that 40%. So it's pretty good. I would recommend 3 stars. So the reason why this aura is so good: 1, it's attack and it's defense, right? That doesn't mean physical attack, magic attack. It means all forms of enemies attack and all forms of their defense, right? So it's their magic and their physical combined. First time I read this, I don't know why, I was new to the game. I just assumed it meant physical attack and defense because I always consider like int for magic and, I don't know, resistance for magic defense. But in this game, it's just saying magic attack, physical attack, and magic defense, physical defense. So this is really good because enemy stats get really high, and this stacks with other buffs. So this is like a completely separate debuff on characters, where if you go into combat and you stand next to them, they're going to get, like, I think it's called generals. I don't know. We'll see it when we get into combat. It'll be experience general. It's just going to lower their stats by 8%, and hopefully in a couple days 12%. And this will stack with the 60% defense down that Homa can do with physical defense down 3. This will stack with attack down 2 on enemies. So this is a great way to not only increase the amount of damage you're dealing to the enemies, which is good. There are other characters you could bring that help you deal more damage to enemies. Although if you don't have a lot of characters with the armor penetration and stuff, this is going to be one of the best ways to get characters without natural armor penetration to deal more damage. In it, when you're stacking it with other buffs. But what he's so good at is he does that, but he also really helps keep your team alive by just taking the edge off of their attack. If sometimes you don't want to apply physical defense down or physical attack down 2 or whatever, but even if you do that, you just have this on top of that, it really adds up. You're taking a lot less damage from these types of characters when they're like boss characters, when their attacks just aren't reaching that high. So this is a very good aura in general. He has to stand next to the enemy, but it's all right. His range is really short. And this is all just his aura. His aura is very good. Just lowering stats like that, I'm a huge fan of lowering enemy stats. The closer it is to 0, the closer they are to being one-hit killed and never being able to kill my guys. So I love this. But we haven't even gotten to his bread and his butter yet. He is kind of a one-trick pony. First, I don't recommend running Iron Chariot. We're going to just compare the damage numbers later in this video here. But we'll get to that in a second. So his starting skill, I believe the one he starts with, maybe it's offensive stance actually. What does he start with? It's got to be Mountain Breaker, right? Yeah, it is. It's Mountain Breaker. I just wanted to make sure. So he starts with Mountain Breaker. This skill is very, very important to him. You're always going to be having Mountain Breaker on because you're always going to have Cry of Victory, and we'll get into that. But they basically combined for a combo that's very good. However, you have a little bit of a flexibility if you're doing a little bit of weird stuff. But single target attack deals 150% damage. It's 3 energy, 2 turn cooldown, 150% damage. Okay, well, let's finish reading the skill. When the target is injured, you also inflict Isolate, and before attacking, you restore 2 energy when he defeats an enemy. So basically, this is a 150% attack. That's all. The Isolate against injured, maybe it's relevant. It's super rare that it comes up. Recovering energy is basically completely useless because this has a cooldown. If this doesn't have a cooldown, it's a little bit better, but I'm not, because then you end up basically just using 0 energy that turn. I don't know why this is on the skill. I wish there was something else there instead. I wish there was a chance to, I don't know, maybe if they're injured, you ignore armor or something. But point is 150%, that again, he is not a primary damage dealer, but this can chunk someone down. When you have a really high physical defense, because your physical defense gets converted to attack, this number can go up very high, very fast, especially with certain things like because when you're buffing your physical attack, you're getting an attack buff. When you're buffing your attack, you're getting an attack buff. So his stats can get pretty high pretty quick. Not as high as probably like someone like Pamina, who just has probably better conversion rates, or at least just like better stats and, better skills in general. But this is kind of his bread and his butter. It is just a reasonable skill to chunk it down, but it really combines with the other skill that we're going to talk about in a second here. Let's talk about it now. We don't need to go over every single skill. Cry of Victory. This is the second reason of 3 that you would be running Magnus. So you have the aura that decreases their attack, increases their defense. On top of that, whenever an enemy is defeated within 2 tiles of them, so if they just kill an enemy within 2 tiles, you inflict attack down 2 on all enemies within 5 tiles, and you grant damage 2 to all allies. This doesn't even say within 5 tiles. I don't actually know if it's within 5 tiles. I haven't really paid attention because 5 tiles is pretty big anyway, but it sounds like it's with all allies. For 2 turns. So this is what's important though, because it's hard to trigger. You have to kill something, but triggers the effect immediately before using Mountain Breaker, which be triggered up to 1 time per round. So you have Mountain Breaker. When you use this, yes, this is a 150% damage skill, but it's a 150% damage skill when you have Cry of Victory that also applies attack down 2 to the enemies, and it gives him and all allies damage up 2. So again, this is like double dipping on his own aura. So now the enemy has a 8 to 15% less attack, and you're stacking a 20% less attack on top of it, and your allies have they have 8 to 15% less defense, and you're giving all your allies a damage 2 buff. Damage 2 buff is good. Coco could do damage 3 to one character. Edda could do an AoE damage 3, but Edda doesn't fit on the same kind of team. I don't think I would almost ever run them in the same team because they're just... Edda is really good at shredding magic defense. He's good at just keeping enemies lower in general. This is a great buff. So between having the super useful aura and having this really great buff tied to a pretty meaty attack... Also, keep in mind, this lasts for 2 turns. And the cooldown for Mountain Breaker is 2 turns. So this is always up on enemies. And if you happen to just kill something... This will trigger even without the Mountain Breaker. So you don't technically need to run Mountain Breaker for this to work. But against bosses, unless they're summoning ads, you're going to need Mountain Breaker for this to work. And the third and final reason you would run this character is he has the best currently Fortitude buff in the game that I've seen. I did miss a couple characters when I was taking a break. But I haven't seen a character with a better Fortitude aura. Now, it is lame that he has... It's always lame for the character that has the aura because they have to run it, you know? If you're going to want the Fortitude thing, you're going to have to run it on them instead of another skill slot. But this guy is very simple in concept anyway, where he's mostly there as like an aura and then an AoE debuffer. So it's not really that bad to run this. But all Fortitude allies, 10-20%, which is always nice. You know, he double dips, he gets attack, and he gives defense, which also gives him attack. Decreased damage taken by 10% if healthy. So that's pretty good for all your Fortitude guys. Again, this just keeps all your Fortitude guys alive even more. You've lowered their enemy's attack by a pretty significant margin, and now you're also decreasing the damage you take if you're healthy, and giving them defense with that, you know. Then you become immune to the effects of injured state. So he's just like, he's so good. I feel like he's a little bit of an unsung hero, because when you put in a character like August and they just go in and they smash something's face in for 100,000 damage, and they turn around, smash something else for 100,000 damage, a lot of times they're doing that off the back of characters like this, and even like Homa and stuff. But this guy is just, he is there as like, he does feel like a general. He's mostly sitting there, all right, and he's just applying these really powerful debuffs and helping keep everyone else alive, which I love. Very cool character. And he's still, I mean, he's doing his damage, all right. We're not writing home about it. He is a supreme marshal, apparently. That's his class. He's a defender, so he's not like doing crazy damage, but he's doing, if you count the amount of damage he actually is doing, if you give him his if you count the defense he's doing as the additional damage, and you count the damage too on all your allies as additional damage, he does do a lot of damage. It's just not directly. So he also gets a really annoying but very cool basic attack. He has an AoE damage basic attack, 70% damage. Not super strong, but you can't miss this. This is a very good ability that so when I say it's like you can't dodge out of it because it's AoE, you can't cover for it because it's AoE. It could hit a bunch of targets, so it's a pretty good skill. It's good at clearing a bunch of junk off the field. If there's like items like crates and stuff that are in the way, he can get through those pretty fast. It's low damage, right? 30% less than a normal basic attack is a big deal, but it is kind of nice as a utility. However, he can't like hit like, there's like items like barrels and stuff. He just breaks them. He can't knock them over because it's not like a single target attack. It's an AoE attack, so he just blows them up. So I don't love this ability, but sometimes I love it, sometimes I hate it. Sometimes I do switch back to the normal slash just so he can attack like a normal human. And this has some weird targeting thing where these back corners you can't target. Even though this is in range, right? Like this tile here, it's 3 tiles away. And even though if there was an enemy in front of him, he could hit that tile, he can't target the direction. You have to target within 2 tiles. So you can't hit these corners, even though it would be in range if there was a second enemy closer. So it's a little weird like that, but it is good. As far as his reaction, performs a strike back with a basic attack when hit from, so it is, his basic attack is his mighty swing. When hit from the side, or the front, and can be activated up to 1 time per round. It's not particularly good. The fact that it does your basic attack, I think, is a little bit better, because I think strike back is normally 70%, whereas this is 70% AoE, but you can make it a flat 100%. But like, come on, who's writing home about that crap? Let's look for the skills that we're not using here. So he does get a pretty cool resolve. Resolve just lets him self-revive. Self-revive is pretty good, but this is the issue with Magnus. This is so set in stone here, these 3. There's almost no situation you're going to run him without running Mountain Breaker and Cry of Victory and the Blood and Steel. maybe again, like if you're running an Iria, like if you have Dandelion on the team and you have like the Iria flag, you don't run this because you're not getting the 10 and 20%. That's when things get way more interesting with him. But a lot of times he is going to be running his own aura, so he doesn't have that much flexibility. And you lose way too much utility and aura buffing without the Cry of Victory combined with the Mountain Breaker. Although if you're not going up against a boss, maybe you don't need Mountain Breaker. Maybe you just need to focus on killing stuff. You could use some of the other skills we're going to talk about. But it's pretty hard to actually make space for skills on his skill bar. So we're not using offensive stance. I like it. You know, you get 40% of your physical defense to your attack, and you take 8% more damage, but he's not a damage dealer. It's whatever. You'd probably end up taking Resolve, if anything. Rank 3, you've got to take Cry of Victory, but this is my favorite skill that he has. This skill is crazy fun. And if you have an opportunity to get Magnus and use Magnus and have this skill on your bar without, like, the aura or something, this shit is almost worth pulling the character, in my opinion, for fun. He throws an enemy to an empty tile 3 or 4 tiles away from himself. Now, not everything can be thrown, but I don't think I've seen anything in this game that throws an object. I'm trying to think even like a way to move a box. Like, I don't think you could push a box even. Well, I mean, you could push a box with like a push skill. I don't mean like that, but you can't like lift up and like chuck it somewhere, you know? So this is huge. This is because I don't think you could throw things off of the map to kill them, but you could throw them off of really deep ledges. You know, you could throw them in all kinds of bad spots, right? It's just honestly, it's really, really cool. And maybe I'll get a chance to show you that in this video as well, just as like a fun thing. 3 or 4 tiles away from himself, you deal 70% damage to all enemies within a 1 tile radius of the target, and you inflict move down 2 for 2 turns. This is just fun to use. It's not 70% AoE is like whatever. It's not very good. It's worse than Gloria's, I think, spear, and it doesn't have the incredible 15% boost to everything like the spear does. But this is fun and it's pretty good. I actually think hardening is probably reasonable, but it's a little lame to take hardening, even though I think it's probably better on average because you're not dealing that much damage with your strike back. So you might want to consider hardening. But I like having the artwork. Like, I'm a little bit of a sucker for the new stuff. Now, rank 7, you got to take Blood and Steel. It's actually really good. And, you know, making yourself, everyone that's a Fortitude, have less damage while healthy and becoming immune to injured. Being immune to injured is huge. You take 20% more damage when you're injured, and you deal 20% less damage. That's a pretty fucking big deal. It's not all the way toughness, but it's like, it's half of toughness, right? So as long as you're above 30% life, it's as if you're healthy. That is a really nice buff. Crushing Bash, no cooldown. This is why it's weird also. Like, his ability has a... Like, look at this. He has the ability to regenerate energy when he kills someone. Like, none of this shit... This is the only shit that takes any energy, and it's not even that good. But, I mean, Vulnerable 2 is nice, but whatever. You don't got to worry about it. I do think there's Feverish Attack is... Here's the thing. If you're going to only take one, you're going to take Mighty Swing. And are you going to spend Castalia to get a second basic attack on a, you know, lower tier character or a mid tier character? No. So don't even worry about it. However, I would definitely use this sometimes if I had the Castalia and I felt like using it. Once in a while, I would use this where if I'm using the strike back, it'll just help him stay alive a little bit longer. Rank 11. This is the dumbest skill to ever have on this character. This is not a strike back character. He has one skill that can strike back one time. When performing an active attack, damage increased by 10%, which is nice, but when you strike back, damage is increased by 30%. I guess this makes your AoE strike back a basic attack, but it makes it like you do a 80% damage normally and you get 10% damage, but I just don't know, man. Like, do I really want 10% damage? It just feels way too weak as opposed to running 10% attack, 20% defense. But I guess if you don't want to have fun and you don't want to run Blood and Steel and you don't want to add 20% of your physical attack to your physical defense, then maybe you would in some world run this. Because honestly, Iron Chariot, this skill reads like it's supposed to be powerful, and then it just kind of not somehow. Single target attack. 4 energy, no cooldown, so you could use this every turn in theory. Deals damage equal to 300% of the character's physical defense, up to 200% of physical attack. So the issue with this is you're not going to actually hit that 200% very often, because 300% of your physical defense, like, I guess in my case, it actually would hit it, because you have so much physical defense, but on a lot of other characters, I feel like it's not even close. But maybe Maybe it is actually easier to hit than I'm giving it credit for. We'll test the numbers here in a second here. But before attacking, you had 20% of your physical attack to your physical defense for 2 turns. This is good, and I do like this. But again, it's not really... He's not actually trying to deal that much damage. The main reason he's using Mountain Breaker is to get Cry of Victory, always have it up. And then he's using this to always be good with the aura. Then he's using his own personal trait aura as well. So this is just not really room for it. Maybe I would run it. We are going to run it right here. We are going to run it here because I don't need Cry of Victory just for the damage numbers. I would rather run Iron Chariot so we can show you the numbers. But I'm always going to run Cry of Victory in a real situation. So as far as equipment, the Hollow Axe is 100% built for him. He might even be holding it. Can we take a look? Can we see what you're holding? It's not. He's holding a really cool axe. He also has a sword there, just in case he needed it. He should be able to equip swords too. But yeah, increase your defense by 10%. This is literally gains bonus physical attack equal to 10% of your physical defense and magic defense at the start of battle. Obviously, this is basically just like his trait, but better. It's worse that it has lower percentage, but it's better that it incorporates both of them. So it's not quite as good as a 20% increase, but then it gives him a 10% defense increase as well. Again, he's kind of just worried about not dying. I do have physical attack on this, but that's whatever. Just rolling swords, you know. It's not bad to have more physical attack. Now, I do like him with the book, actually, because if we take a look here, he has 231 speed. There's not many characters faster than him, so I think he's pretty reasonable with the book. And again, this just kind of helps him fulfill his role more of giving auras and supporting. Like, you don't really need him to self-heal or to damage. You're probably going to have someone that could heal besides that. And you don't really need to like go out of your way to try to boost his damage. And honestly, you don't even need him to have like immunity to disrupt or anything, because all of his shit, his auras for the most part will like work even if he gets stunned for a turn or something, or like, that doesn't work against stun. But if he gets, I don't know, whatever for a turn, he gets blinded for a turn, I don't know, most of his shit's still gonna work, you know. So it is nice just to have an old scroll of a gust. I did get a high percent in HP on this, so he has pretty good physical defense. And then I like Temptation of the Devil. It kind of depends, because he has the Cry of Victory. When he's killing things, or when things are dying around him, I'll start triggering this. But also, again, any character, kind of like Pamina, even though I'm currently not using this on her, but giving you attack and defense, and the defense gives you attack. This is just a nice double dipping. However, I actually think probably the best, but I'm using it on someone else right now. It's probably equipped because I actually have it equipped right now. I think it would be very reasonable to use Judgment here. It just kind of feeds into what he does, right? Now, at the end of his turn, you're going to dispel 2 attribute buffs from 1 random enemy within 2 tiles of your character. So now you're going to just be randomly dispelling people just from standing near them, which you need to do for all your shit to work anyway. And you inflict Judgment, so enemies are going to take 10% more damage. I think this is just very solid in general. I would use this all the time. However, for the sake of trying to do it's a damage showcase, but it's not that impressive. I already ran this, but I mean, it's not nothing, right? But it's not going to be Guzman numbers, I'll tell you that. Guzman has 180% modifier. This guy only has 160%, and Guzman has just more things. I feel like they give him damage, but we will test the Iron Chariot versus the Mountain Breaker. And I think at different stages of the buffing, he actually gets different stuff. So he's not perfectly set up for damage, but this is the build that I run him on most of the time. And I will take this off and I will run Judgment on him. However, I'm running out No Will because she's currently doing the vulnerable 3, and this just kind of works for what I'm trying to do. But this also double dips. So if you're fighting a lot of guys, the Devil is extra good on him because it helps keep him alive, helps him deal more damage. And while he's alive, everyone else is better off. So now, let us take a look and go in there. What you do is you have this guy come up. Actually, we could do... This will help us deal more damage. So actually, first right now, right, this is 2,800. This is 3,100. So it does a little bit more, but not much. I think I am going to hit him with this, because for 2 turns, it'll give me more juice. And right? So now if we take a look here, what did I say, 1,640? He's at 2,492 physical defense and 4,000 physical attack. We can forget his physical attack higher if we bring the other order that gives him an attack 4 buff, but we're not going to worry about that. We're going to move Gloria here, and we are going to put... It's very important that we let all these we make all these characters die, by the way. It is very important. So you're going to move up here. You are going to give your bird to the boy. And then you are going to lower physical defense 3 as well. There you go. So now let's take a look actually at this thing's defense. And keep in mind, my guy's only given 8%. Even with just this, just one physical defense down, he's at 612. Well, let's take a look where he was before. That way we could be super impressed, right? 1761 because of the 8%. But yeah, the fact that they stack, I think, is just like super solid, man. I love that they stack. I'm excited for that extra 4% because every percent you get closer to 100 is way better. So 15% is way better than 12% because every Path of Exile taught me that 76% resist is a lot better than 75. So we're gonna bring up here, go ahead and do the Enchanting Shadow. I guess we could have done Coco, and she could have just given him a breakfast if we set it up right. Yeah, whatever, potato, potato. So this is a very important turn. We need to put a guy here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and we need to put a guy here. I don't remember if you die here. I don't remember how I set it up. But then we actually want to do this really bad. This will give him the physical defense 2. And so right now because I don't think he has physical defense 2. So he's at 5317, 2872. And then we're going to go ahead and do this. Oh, you're not in range. Hold on. All right, there we go. We got 10 stacks. We got it all working. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to give everyone a little bit of a heal. Bada bing, bada boom. You're going to go and stand by here. And I believe you only have 2 energy. Oh, you have 3 energy. Okay, maybe you did get enough. So he's up to 3,000 and bada bing, bada boom. Let's go ahead and do this. Need to be within 3 tiles. So we'll go ahead and do this. And then, do you want meditation? What does that do? Speed 2, meditation. I don't think you need that for anything. I think you just stand by. All right, so currently he has damage 2, Iron Chariot, Ballure, which I don't count that one, attack 2, physical defense counts as damage, the Devil, Blood and Steel, Leader's Aura, Caged Reverie, and Banner Aura. So he's got all the things. So what we're actually going to do is, because he has we're going to move over here and we're going to target this guy just so we could take a look at our stats before we attack. So now we're at 6,500 physical attack, 3,900 physical defense. And again, this is just not crazy, but it is good. But we're putting a lot of his effort into his physical defense. That way he's kind of double dipping, which I do like. I think it is kind of nice because this is a big number. That's a lot more. That's more than enemies get probably. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's actually take a look at the damages here. So normal attack does 8,000. This does 17,000, and this does 21,000. So you can see it's about the same magnitude higher. Let's go ahead and give the juice here, and we'll actually do a normal thing here. So yeah, this is going to be 40,000 damage, and this is going to be 33,000. But that's actually going to be more. Let's do the weaker hit first, because it's going to be a guaranteed crit. So 33,000 damage, 49,000. I mean, that again, that's pretty good, right? But it's not like the 100,000 damage that we've been kind of doing. I don't think I need to do this, but it feels good, and I don't think it lowers my stats. And then we put this down. Bada bing. If we had a bunch of tactic points, we could also do the other thing there. Another little bit of tech though is if you're not using the Maverick cloak, which we could here, but it just doesn't work with him as a build. You could use the KA guard or Inanna, and they can give the co-attack, which is 15% more attack and defense. I believe I think you can get co-attack and defense, so you can get up to 40% bonus defense for this kind of stuff. And then this is 40,000, but it's probably gonna do what, closer to 55, 60,000 damage. So you can see there he does pretty reasonable, but that's not really his job. It is good. It is partially his job, but he is the backup there, right? Magnus, I think, is genuinely probably. I think he's still like a B tier character, not S, not A, but I think he's like on the high end of the Bs. And I actually just probably did a tier list recently, and I can see where I put him. But I've been using him just a lot. He's just been good. Like, if I had to give a character that he's better than and a character he's worse than, he's probably, I mean, he's better than Xavier. I'd say on average, he's better than Samantha, Miguel, Alexi, Mytha, Phycal, Nergal, Cole, Nungal. Nungal, yeah, probably Nungal. Leonide. I think he's better than all of those characters for sure. Probably better than Nono will most of the time. Nono will has some fun stuff. And then I think he's probably not quite as good as like a Guzman. I think he's probably better than Hasna. Hasna does a lot more damage, but Hasna is not providing as much to the team as a whole. He's probably just like not quite as good as Beryl, because Beryl does a lot of damage. Different roles though. But that's kind of my breakdown for the character. Let me know if you're using Magnus. How long have you had him? If you have had him, do you still want to get him? If you do want to get him, or if you want to get him after this video, I'm kind of interested. But yeah, guys, it's getting late. This video was longer than I thought. I'm just a big fan of the boy. I might even give him a little bit of love here. Let's bring him to how much do I got? 1,000. Ooh, there you go. Look at that. Brought him up 2% more. That's about, we get his picture. That's how I like it. New avatar unlocked. And that's all for this one, guys. That's all, folks. See you in the next one. Bye.